It was a crisp Monday morning, the kind that hints at the promise of a new week, yet carries a subtle chill in the air that seems to whisper of change. Jasmine Porter, a bright 14-year-old girl from Oak Ridge, stepped out of her family's modest yet elegant home, clutching her carefully prepared folder. Today was a milestone, her first solo trip to the bank to deposit her scholarship check. The check, a generous $5,000 award earned through her relentless dedication and academic excellence, was more than just a sum of money. It was a symbol of her independence, her hard work, and her unwavering determination to carve her own path. Dressed in her neat school uniform, a crisp blazer, a pleated skirt, and polished loafers, Jasmine felt a mixture of pride and nervous anticipation. She had always been taught that effort and integrity were the keys to success, and today she was determined to prove that she could handle this responsibility on her own. Her mother, Dr. Naomi Porter, a renowned financial expert who had built her career from the ground up, had always emphasized the importance of self-reliance. Wealth isn't just about money, Naomi would often say. It's about using your strength, your knowledge, and your character to make a difference. As Jasmine carefully placed the check in her leather-bound folder, her mother looked up from her papers at the breakfast table, a warm smile on her face. "Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" Naomi asked gently, her voice tinged with concern. She knew her daughter was capable, but as a mother, her instinct was to shield her from the world's harshness. "No, Mom," Jasmine replied with quiet confidence. "I want to do this myself. I've got everything I need right here." She patted her folder, feeling a surge of pride. "I'll be back before you finish your meeting." Naomi nodded, her eyes filled with pride and a touch of worry. "All right, sweetheart. Just be careful. Remember, honesty and respect are your greatest tools." With that, Jasmine grabbed her coat and headed out into the morning sunlight, unaware that this simple act, walking into a bank to deposit a scholarship check, would soon become a profound lesson in the realities of societal bias and discrimination. Jasmine arrived at Oak Bank, a prestigious financial institution nestled in the heart of the city's most affluent neighborhood. Its marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of chandeliers, and polished wood accents reflected a sense of tradition and stability. To Jasmine it was a place of promise, a symbol of achievement and trust. She approached the entrance with a steadying breath, clutching her folder tightly. Inside, the atmosphere was bustling but orderly. Customers moved with purpose, some engaged in serious conversations with tellers, others quietly reviewing documents. Jasmine's heart pounded as she made her way to the teller counter, her small frame standing out amid the sea of well-dressed adults. She was here to deposit her scholarship check, a task she had prepared for meticulously. Behind the counter, Victoria Hayes, the bank manager, was a woman in her late 40s, known for her impeccable fashion sense and an air of authority that commanded respect. Her sharp eyes immediately noticed Jasmine's arrival. Dressed in a tailored suit, Victoria exuded confidence, her every movement deliberate and precise. She was used to dealing with high-net-worth clients and important transactions, but today her gaze lingered a little longer on the young girl standing before her. Jasmine approached confidently, clutching her folder. "Good morning," she said softly but clearly. "I'd like to deposit this scholarship check." Victoria's smile was polite but cool, her eyes assessing Jasmine with a practiced professionalism. She took the check from Jasmine's outstretched hand, her gaze flickering as she examined the document. The check was for $5,000, a substantial amount for a student. Victoria's expression remained neutral, but her mind was already analyzing the situation. Tom, a young teller nearby, took the check from Victoria's hand. His face was neutral at first, but as he held the check up to the light, suspicion crept into his eyes. His brow furrowed as he examined the paper, turning it over and inspecting every detail as if searching for a clue. Minutes felt like hours as he scrutinized the check, his suspicion growing. Victoria stepped closer, her tone low but edged with disdain. "We've had a lot of fraudulent checks lately," she muttered, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "I'll need to verify everything before we proceed." Jasmine's heart sank. She had expected a simple deposit, a routine task. Instead, she was being scrutinized as if she were a criminal. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and she looked down at her bag, realizing with a jolt that her phone was still tucked away in her locker at school. "I need to call my mom," she said softly, voice trembling slightly. "She's expecting me home soon. I don't have my phone here." Victoria barely spared her a glance. "That's not our problem," she snapped coldly. "You'll have to wait until we finish our verification process." Her words cut deep, and Jasmine felt a wave of humiliation wash over her. She stood motionless as Victoria turned away, her condescending steps echoing through the busy lobby. Victoria moved to a corner of the bank, arms crossed, her expression smug as she observed Jasmine standing in the middle of the room. The hum of activity continued around her, but Jasmine felt as if the entire space had shrunk to a stage where she was the unwelcome performer. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd, some curious, others judgmental. She could hear snippets of conversation, some with sneers, others with pity. Minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity. Jasmine's mind raced, trying to hold on to her composure. She had always been observant. She noticed how some customers were treated with deference, their needs attended to promptly, while others were ignored or dismissed. Today she was on the receiving end of that disparity. Her eyes flicked across the room, noting the subtle differences in treatment. The elderly couple who were escorted to a VIP lounge, the well-dressed businessman who was attended to with respect, and her, standing alone, invisible. She clenched her fists, fighting back tears of frustration. Her father's words echoed in her mind, "Always stay calm. Never let them see you sweat." But inside she felt a storm of emotions, anger, shame, helplessness. She wanted to scream, to demand her documents back, to tell everyone that she had earned this scholarship honestly. Yet she remained silent, knowing that her silence was her strength. Across the room Victoria was speaking quietly to Tom, her voice almost conspiratorial. "We need to maintain our standards," she said. "We can't just let anyone walk in and expect to be treated like they belong here." The words hit Jasmine like a punch. She realized that her treatment wasn't just about verifying a check, it was about judgment, about her worth based solely on her appearance and background. Just as Jasmine's thoughts spiraled into uncertainty, the bank doors swung open. In walked her mother, Naomi Porter, an imposing figure of calm authority and grace. Her presence immediately commanded attention. Dressed impeccably, her demeanor exuded confidence and strength. Jasmine's heart fluttered with hope and relief. Victoria Hayes, who had been overseeing Jasmine's ordeal, straightened up as soon as she saw Naomi. Her face briefly flickered with discomfort before she quickly masked it with a veneer of politeness. "Good morning, Miss Porter," she greeted smoothly. "I wasn't expecting you today. How can I assist you?" Naomi's gaze was sharp as she took in her daughter standing alone in the corner, visibly upset but trying to hold herself together. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she approached Jasmine. "Are you okay?" Naomi asked softly, concern evident in her voice. Jasmine nodded, fighting back tears. "I'm fine, Mom," she whispered. "But there's something you need to know." She pulled out her notebook and began recounting everything she had observed. The discriminatory treatment, the secret meeting between Victoria and Wells, the confidential folder, and the suspicious conversation. Naomi listened intently, her face growing more serious with each detail. When Jasmine finished, Naomi's expression hardened. She turned sharply toward Victoria Hayes, who was now trying to act innocent. "Miss Hayes," Naomi said coldly, "I believe you owe my daughter an apology. And I believe you owe me an explanation." Victoria's confident facade cracked. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. Naomi's voice cut through the air like a blade. "I know exactly what you've been doing. You've been conspiring with Harrison Wells, sharing confidential information that could harm my company. This isn't just poor customer service, it's corporate espionage." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Victoria, whose face paled as her composure shattered. She opened her mouth to speak but found no words. Naomi's gaze was unwavering. "You're fired," Naomi declared firmly. "Effective immediately." Two security guards approached Victoria, who was now visibly shaken. "Please escort Miss Hayes out," Naomi ordered calmly but authoritatively. "And ensure she leaves quietly." Victoria was led away, her pride shattered. Naomi turned back to Jasmine, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "This institution will undergo a full review," she announced. "We will implement new policies to ensure no one is treated unfairly or discriminated against again." Jasmine watched her mother take control of the situation, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. Her courage had made a difference, not just for herself but for others who might face similar injustice. In the weeks that followed, the bank's leadership was overhauled. Investigations uncovered Victoria Hayes' attempts to sabotage Naomi's business and her pattern of discriminatory behavior. New training programs on equity and inclusion were introduced, and staff were held accountable for their actions. Jasmine's experience became a catalyst for change beyond the bank. She was invited to speak at her school, Westra Academy, sharing her story about standing up against injustice and advocating for fairness. Her voice inspired others to recognize bias and to challenge it. Her mother's unwavering support and her own resilience taught Jasmine that even in the face of systemic discrimination, courage and integrity could make a difference. She realized that her painful experience had transformed her into someone who could stand up for others and fight for justice. And so, Jasmine's journey, marked by a moment of humiliation, became a testament to the power of truth, the importance of standing tall, and the enduring strength of integrity in a world that often tests our resolve. If you'd like me to further expand specific sections or add more background context, please let me know. Her heart sank further as she watched Victoria's lips curl into a sneer. "We have to be careful," Victoria continued. "There are too many risks. We can't afford to let our guard down." Jasmine's fists clenched tighter. She had worked tirelessly for this moment, earned her scholarship through sweat and sacrifice. She had studied late into the night, balanced schoolwork with part-time jobs, and stayed true to her values. And now she was being judged not for her effort but for how she looked. She looked at the clock again. More time had passed. The whispers grew louder, the judgment more palpable. She felt the weight of the room's silent scrutiny pressing down on her shoulders. She longed to call her mother to tell her what was happening, but her phone was still in her locker. The longer she waited, the more she felt the sting of injustice. Her mind drifted back to her childhood in Oakridge, an area known for its quiet affluence, its tight-knit community, and its values of humility and hard work. Jasmine had always been proud of her roots. Her mother, Naomi Porter, had built her reputation as a trailblazing financial expert, a woman who believed that true success came from effort, not privilege. Naomi had always told Jasmine, "Wealth isn't just about money. It's about how you use what you have to make a difference." Jasmine had internalized those lessons. She knew her worth wasn't defined by her family's wealth but by her character and perseverance. That's why she had fought so hard for her scholarship, earned it on merit, not privilege. She had always believed that fairness and integrity mattered most. Today that belief was being tested. From across the room, Jasmine could hear Victoria speaking again, this time in a low, almost whispering tone to Tom. "I'm telling you, we need to keep our standards high. We can't just let anyone walk in and expect special treatment. That's how we protect our reputation." The words cut deep. Jasmine's stomach clenched as she realized the truth. She was being judged not for who she was or what she had achieved but for how she looked. Victoria's words revealed a disturbing mindset, a belief that some people didn't belong in this space, that their presence was a threat to the institution's image. Her fists trembled, but she refused to let her emotions spill over. She had worked too hard for this moment. Her entire life had been about proving herself, her intelligence, her integrity, her worth. She had always believed that fairness was the foundation of justice. But today she saw that bias lurked beneath the surface of even the most respected institutions. Victoria's voice suddenly rang out again, this time addressing the security guard standing nearby. "Keep an eye on her," she ordered coldly. "Make sure she doesn't try to leave." Jasmine's heart pounded. The humiliation was overwhelming. She felt like an invisible prisoner, trapped in a system that refused to see her as a person but only as an inconvenience. Her mind raced. What could she do? How could she fight back against this injustice? She looked around desperately, searching for a way out. Her eyes landed on Victoria, who was now speaking with a tall, well-dressed man, someone Jasmine didn't recognize at first. But as she watched, a name clicked in her mind: Harrison Wells, CEO of Meridian Banking Group. Her mother had mentioned him in passing, an influential figure in the financial world, a rival bank owner. Victoria was handing him a folder marked "Confidential," and their conversation was hushed but intense. Jasmine strained to hear, her heart pounding. The folder was clearly marked as sensitive, and the way Victoria was speaking suggested that something important was inside. Jasmine's mind spun with possibilities. Was this about her mother's bank? Was Victoria betraying her employer? Was she involved in something illegal? She shifted slightly, trying to catch more of the conversation. Her position was awkward, far from the two figures, yet close enough to see the tension in Victoria's face and the seriousness of the exchange. Wells nodded as he looked through the folder, his expression unreadable but serious. Victoria's smile was tight, almost too eager. Jasmine's stomach churned. She realized that Victoria wasn't just discriminating against her because of her race or age. She was actively working against her own company, perhaps even sabotaging her mother's reputation. Whatever was in that folder was dangerous, and Jasmine knew she had stumbled upon something much bigger than a simple bank deposit. Her fingers instinctively reached for her notebook, her trusted leather-bound journal where she kept notes of everything she observed. She had always been meticulous, writing down details, recording incidents of unfair treatment, noting subtle biases. Now, more than ever, she needed to document everything. She quickly opened her notebook, her hand trembling slightly as she jotted down the time, the names she overheard, and the suspicious folder. Every detail mattered. She knew that this information could be crucial, perhaps even her only chance to expose the injustice and protect her family's reputation. As Wells finally closed the folder and prepared to leave, Victoria's demeanor shifted. Her smile faded, replaced by a cold, calculating expression. She turned back to the counter, but Jasmine could sense that she knew she had been observed. The feeling of being watched intensified. Jasmine's mind raced. What should she do? Should she confront Victoria? Should she tell someone? But she knew that revealing what she had seen could be dangerous. Still, she felt a surge of resolve. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about justice, fairness, and standing up for what was right.